You're all set.
Dope. Yeah, and I realized that a lot of this was when I went to college, you know what I mean? A lot of the things that we talk about in urban and regional development was things they did to black and brown people. You know what I mean? Like Pruitt-Igoe, which is the first housing project ever in St. Louis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What they would do is they would strip. If you were a mother with children that lived in Pruitt-Igoe, you could not live there with the father.
Oh.
That was one of the requirements. And if you were to live there with the father, they would kick you out.
Oh, wow.
Right? But then, because of redlining, if you lived in a certain area, you couldn't get a home loan, a mortgage loan. You know what I mean? And so, even back in the day in Chicago in the 50s and 60s, what they would do is they would do contract housing, right? So they would act as though they are selling you the home, but the landlord would keep the deed. The owner of the home would keep the deed. You're paying a mortgage, and then the moment you miss a payment because the mortgage payments are so high, they evict you, right? And then so you see a lot of these houseless folks, they're black and brown people because they lived in red line neighborhoods, right? Or they couldn't necessarily get a job. Right, in Pruitt-Igoe in St. Louis, there was a documentary of a black man. They asked him, okay, you can't get a job. You can't get a home. You have to take care of your family, your wife and kids. But you don't have access to employment. You don't have access to education. You've not been to college, right? Because a lot of these different companies that people used to work for, General Motors, outsource, right? So they wouldn't have to spend so much money on the production of their product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, this man is brought to tears because he can't feed his family, he can't feed himself, he can't house himself, he can't even live with his family. You know what I mean? And so then you bring in the idea of like heroin and crack cocaine and all these different things, right? And so people start to sell, they start to kill their own people, they distribute that, and then they get locked up, right? Or they get killed by their own folks. It's a cage. They put us in a cage, you know, it's just without the bars. You know what I mean? Or they put us in the literal cage. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it's difficult to deal with a lot of these different things, you know, because people are not politically educated, and that's obviously on purpose. You know, they don't know about these past movements and these past things that have happened to them, and to the people alike. You know what I mean? It's that constant racial and class division, right? And you can even look at Las Vistas, right? There's Las Vistas and there's Western Hymns, too, right? So you have the Chicana side, the Paisa side, and then you have the black side, right? But this neighborhood used to be 90% black. You know what I mean? And so it's like, but the Chicanas are getting the very limited opportunities in order to produce for their families, in order to produce for their communities. And then, you know, people make jokes about like Chicanas, they like kind of stick together. You know what I mean? You might have fucking 8 people in one house. You know what I mean? Eating rice and beans. You know what I mean? Eating the 3 sisters, right? Which is rice, beans, and peas. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you have all these cultural things that y'all were able to stick to, and then you have a lot of people coming in, right? Because the border is only an hour away. You know what I mean? And so it's not on the fault of the brown folks that were coming into this neighborhood, but it's on the fault of the development and how it is that black people were brought here from Africa, and then they were just caged in. You know what I mean? Because we're their labor that they can exploit.
Yeah.
Same thing with you know, Chicanas, right? Or just the Mexicans, right? It's the Bracero program, right? Where they're giving people, they're bringing in migrants who are considered illegal, and then they're giving them employment opportunities, right? And of course they don't want to leave because they're seeing more money than they have ever seen in their entire lives. Yeah. You know, because their nation has been destabilized. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so a lot of that feeds into this, and yeah, I don't claim to know everything. I'm definitely still learning a lot, but it's what I'm seeing right now, you know? And, right, we have a mayor, Regina Romero, who is an immigrant, a daughter from immigrants, you know what I mean? A Chicana, a person that shows that identity first and foremost. I think she's just like Obama, you know? Well, black people, 98% of black people voted for Obama, right? But then you go back, and what did Obama do for black folks? Largely in the nation, or just people in general. You know what I mean? Is that you still see the same conditions that you've seen even before he was president. You know what I mean? It even got worse after he was president, right? Because that was a reaction for Trump to then come into this. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, no. And even before this, right, being from the military, driving into this neighborhood to see my partner, is you would see SWAT come into this neighborhood. You know what I mean? You see large swaths of police coming into this neighborhood as if it was like they were going to war with the people, right? But then it's like, there's research that has been utilized and proven time and time and again is that if you nurture the people, you kind of see a decrease in crime. You see a appreciation for their environment. You know, when you give them the capability to take care of themselves. You know what I mean? And so, you know, and on top of that, COVID, right? Like, there are people in this neighborhood that have lost 10 plus family members like that. You know, because we don't have access to health care. You know what I mean? And so I consider this genocide because it's a slow killing. You know, you strip a people from its cultural traditions and you strip a people from their foundation, their roots. They can't even put a seed in the ground. They can't put a starter in the ground in order to then produce something that is healthy for them because the ground is full of trash. You know, and then you come in and you invest national money, right? Money from Congressman Ann Kirkpatrick, $2 million. And the people that are presenting in the neighborhood, they don't even know that the neighborhood is built on a landfill. You know? They don't know the condition of the school. They don't know the school's bathrooms don't work. They don't know the school's buildings are falling apart. They don't know that TUSD as a district is stripping away programs and funding away from the local school. You know what I mean? And it's disheartening. You know what I mean? But it motivates me, honestly, because I'm not leaving this neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't grow up in this neighborhood. I didn't grow up in Tucson, so I can never claim to know what it is that you all have been through. But I know what it's like because it happened in Dallas.
Yeah.
You know, it happened long before I was even able to recognize it in Dallas. You know what I mean? I lived in South Dallas at one point where we had rat shit in our food. We had police officers that had whole units in our schools. We had fights. We had a decent amount of programs, right? But it was like, I remember wanting to attend a home economics class, and the first day that we attended it, our teacher had quit. So you don't have the home economics program, right? No more, because you don't have anything to fuel that, right? And then you go to I went to a school in North Dallas. You know, kids are driving BMWs, Mercedes. You know what I mean? They have a fruitful amount of education. You know what I mean? They're the ones that are doing the drugs and doing the, you know, bringing all these things to school, right? But because they don't have what is that thing called? They don't have a microscope on them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have a microscope on them, so therefore they're not getting in trouble. But they're the kids that are, you know, not getting criminalized for the things that America has supplied.
My gosh, exactly. Yeah, it's like we're so quick to turn the blind eye when it comes, you know, just to like their simple skin color. Oh, they're white. How could they? Like, no, it must be that kid that's like reading a book because he's brown, you know?
Exactly.
Like, what? Like, it's just so like,
you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's, yeah, like the more you talk about it, it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is such a big problem that we're just so quick to like you said, like people are trying to help, but yet they don't know like the conditions of like the schools, like that the walls are quite literally falling apart, that there's like no light bulbs in there, you know, because we don't have the equipment to get to it to change a simple light bulb, you know. It's like they don't know none of that. They just like overview everything and they're like, oh yeah, there's this, that, and that, this is how we're gonna fix it. And it's like, no, like look inside. You know. And people just don't do that.
And then what we're seeing too is that, you know, the city paying nonprofits to come into the neighborhood, right? Provide us with programs, provide us with material and things like that. You hadn't been to a neighborhood association meeting yet for Las Vistas? But, you know, there was this nonprofit, SERI, S-E-R-I, that won a grant from Washington, D.C. for $185,000 for 2 years. in order to fight housing discrimination. And I only know that because we applied for the same thing. And what we were going to do with it is we were going to hire construction workers on the ground to go into these generational homes and fix these homes. Right? Fix what we can. Fix what we can at least understand and analyze, right? So that we can create a network of people that will actually aim to help fix these things, right? We didn't get it because we're undercapacitated, right? And so this nonprofit, they get the grant first time they show up in our neighborhood is, hey, we have high efficiency washers for $800, but we'll sell them to y'all for $200. I'm like, you're coming into our neighborhood trying to sell us something when you have this. And that wasn't something we found that out after, you know? But I'm just like, don't come into this neighborhood not understanding the need, saying that you have this high efficient product and you're trying to sell it to us? No. Or trying to give us free toilets. Because as a poor person, I've never received anything from that. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it always comes with something. You know what I mean? Even like dealing with friends and loved ones and family, you know what I mean? You'll never take anything from your family member for free because you know that they need it just as much as you do. You know, and we're generations removed from our parents. You know what I mean? There's a completely different time in the 90s than it is now. You know what I mean? And so it's things like that, and yeah, it's disrespectful. You know, because Regina Romero, as the daughter of immigrants, right, is bolstering this idea that she's like us, but won't even come to the neighborhood to talk to us. Won't talk to us about the millions of dollars that she's investing in this neighborhood. Won't talk to us that isn't even from here, right? Me as a person that's not from here, I understand that I need to talk to the people that are from here. And I need to put them first and foremost, and I need to fuel what it is that they're doing if you're from here, right? And if you've grown up here and you've been a part of this fabric, this constantly changing fabric, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel a desire to be in front because I don't need to. Like, this is something that was already here before me. You know what I mean? Something that's going to be here after me. But as a person that is with somebody that has been here that long, you know what I mean? And in like friendship with other people that have also been here that long, you know what I mean? Grandmothers grew up here. I would never want to remove, well, my grandmother was removed from her home because of Civil War, you know what I mean? And so, but that's like a lot bigger of a thing I could probably get into. But yeah, you remove people from their traditions, you remove them from their cultural understanding of who it is that they are, you strip them of every opportunity possible, you then blame it on them, saying as though they're lazy and they're uneducated and they're not in the right direction, or they do drugs, they drink too much, they, you know, they have fucked up cars, you know what I mean, their lawns are miskept.